We had a great conversation. It was a very heartfelt conversation.
Really, he's got a great personality. He's a, funny guy. He's a very smart guy. He's a great negotiator.
We had a terrific day, and we learned a lot about each other and about our countries.
You learned about him, sir?
I learned he's a very talented man. I also learned that he loves his country very much.
Loves his people. He loves his country. He wants a lot of good things, and that's why he's doing this.
President Trump speaking glowingly about the brutal North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. My panel's here to discuss this historic U.S. summit with North Korea. Scott Jennings, let me start with you. Obviously, President Trump is trying to convince Kim Jong-un to denuclearize, and for that reason, he's flattering him a lot. Did you find it excessive at all?
Well, I find it that this is the way Donald Trump does business. He flatters people that he's trying to get to see things his way. We've seen him do it in Washington. We saw him do it before he entered politics, and now he's trying to apply that same kind of diplomacy. Yeah, it makes me a little uncomfortable. I mean, look, these North Koreans are liars. They murder people in crazy ways, like with flamethrowers and things. I mean, it's really brutal what they do to people, including Americans. But at the end of the day, the president's #1 job is to protect the American people, especially from nuclear war. That's what he's trying to do here, so I'm willing to give the president a little bit of rope if this is what it takes to get a deal done on a problem that has vexed several administrations.
Bobby, what do you think?
Well, listen, American presidents have shaken hands with brutal, murderous dictators before. Richard Nixon went to China and shook Mao Zedong's hand. More people died at Mao's hands than at Kim Jong-un's. But Richard Nixon didn't feel it necessary then to pat Mao in the back and say he's a terrific guy, he's very talented. All of that extraneous stuff, it seems so egregious and unnecessary. You want flattery? The President of the United States traveling all the way to Singapore to shake your hand, to put your flag next to the Stars and Stripes, that is plenty flattery. Everything more than that is completely unnecessary.
Does it do anything negative for him to do that? Just to play devil's advocate, he wants a peace deal. It would be better for the world if Kim Jong-un didn't have nukes.
Absolutely.
What's the, just devil's advocate here.
Advocate.
What's the big deal if he says a few nice things?
Well, it was like watching an episode of The Bachelor or something. You know, he walks away with the rose. I don't know what we're going to walk away with. I have to say, I root for the president. I root for this process to work. But I don't think we saw anything today to give us evidence that it's going to work. We've gotten nothing so far. The president is literally speaking the language of Kim. He's talented. He's handsome.
His people love him.
His people love him. They have a fervor. Yeah. I think he also said his people have a fervor for him. Does fervor involve terror? I don't know how he uses the word fervor. So I think we are giving up something by praising him when he's done absolutely nothing, as well as by saying we're not going to play war games anymore. Again, as you said, using his formulation.
Yeah. And it matters because it sends a message to everybody else. The world is watching this. It's not just Kim Jong-un. Right. What you say to Kim Jong-un in private is one thing. If you step away from that and announce this to the cameras around the world, it's telling every tin-pot dictator around the world that you have a chance of that. It's telling our allies
and get some nukes.
And all you have to do is get some nukes. And the President of the United States will not only shake your hand, he'll say wonderful things about you.
Scott, you know, when we cover the president, we like to play the game. There's a tweet for it. Now that the president's expressing optimism that Kim Jong-un will adhere to this new framework, let's check back on what he thought last October. Quote, presidents and their administrations have been talking to North Korea for 25 years. Agreements made and massive amounts of money paid. Hasn't worked. Agreements violated before the ink was dry, making fools of U.S. negotiators. Sorry, but only one thing will work. Now, we don't know what that one thing was. When I read that tweet at the time, I thought it was maybe he was talking about military force. Maybe in retrospect, he meant the genius of himself and his ability to negotiate a deal. I don't know. But it does seem like even President Trump would be skeptical of this deal, such as it is, if he were not the one making it.
I think at the time the president was leaving open the possibility of a military option. I also think that he was telling the North Koreans, we're going to ratchet up these sanctions until you come to the table, which clearly worked. And we were in that period of time when he sent that tweet, Jake, where he was trying to show them, I've got greater resolve than you faced from previous administrations. I think the president's resolve on sanctions and, you know, just the concept that he might be willing to launch militarily actually brought Kim to the table. I remember last summer, everybody was upset with the president about all of his harsh rhetoric rhetoric towards North Korea. Now everybody's upset about his dovish, flattering rhetoric. There are some people in this country who cannot take yes for an answer. I think we've been banging our head against the wall for 50 years on this problem. Let's give the president a chance to give the world something better, which is a denuclearized North Korea.
Well, that'd be great if
we don't have a yes. We don't have a yes yet. So I root for him.
Right. It's the start of a process, and hopefully it ends with a yes. I want to play some of the video that the president and the White House played for Kim Jong-un at the start of the Singapore summit. It really was portrayed like a movie trailer. Let's roll some of that tape.
Two leaders, one destiny. A story about a special moment in time when a man is presented with one chance that may never be repeated. What will he choose? To show vision and leadership? Or not?
Bobby, are the North Koreans naive enough that that might work? I mean, I realize that they live in a secluded kind of environment, but...
Listen, in a normal environment, if this meeting had come and this video had come after a long period of negotiations, discussions, I would assume that the CIA had done some real intensive psych analysis of the president, of the chairman of North Korea, and had decided that this is exactly the kind of thing that might appeal to his vanity. Given how soon we've put all of these things together, I'm skeptical that that's the case. I'm really very skeptical.
What did you think when you saw that video?
Was that Dennis Rodman?
I think it was Michael Jordan, but I'm not sure. There is a Sly Stallone cameo, though, if you look closely enough.
I missed that. I thought it was bizarre. I thought it was incredibly shallow and bizarre, and but, you know, we've seen worse things.
Scott, one of your fellow conservatives, Eric Erickson, tweeted, if Obama had done what Trump just did, Republicans would be demanding his impeachment. Is that unfair?
Well, I think that the difference is that Obama was never prepared, I think, to go all the way on sanctions or go all the way on the military option. That's the core difference here, is that Trump was willing to do more than previous administrations to punish these North Koreans into being better actors on the world stage. So he's welcome to his opinion. I just happen to think that it's the president's resolve and the deepness of the sanctions that no one else was willing to do that really got us to where we are. Regarding that movie trailer, I actually do think there's been more conversations going on behind the scenes for a longer period of time than we know about. I think it's possible the president and Kim may have spoken before. I think it's highly likely that they know that that kind of thing would flatter him. And look, we elected a salesman as the president of the United States, and he's putting a sales pitch on these people that you can be more like the rest of us, have peace and prosperity and wealth, and the world will be a better place. That's what he is selling, and we hope they're buying it.
All right, everyone stick around. We got a lot more to talk about. Turn back to the North Korean deal. Joan, I want you to listen to some sound from President Trump today in which he seems to be suggesting that some of the harsher rhetoric we heard from him about Kim Jong-un last year was not how he really felt, but he felt like he needed to do it. Let's take a listen.
Other administrations, I don't want to get specific on that, but they had a policy of silence. If they said something very bad, very threatening and horrible, just don't answer. That's not the answer. That's not what you have to do. So I think the rhetoric, I hated to do it. Sometimes I felt foolish doing it, but we had no choice.
It's interesting. He seems to be saying that he felt foolish. He felt foolish, even saying things like, I would guess Fire and Fury was the most stark example. Maybe my Rocket Man, my button is bigger than yours.
Yeah.
But if the idea was he was saying that in order to get Kim Jong-un to the negotiating table, does he deserve any credit?
I've already said I'm willing to give him some credit, Jake. But again, I'm not willing to suspend all of my faculties and consider this a done deal. And I'm also not willing to say that I have no regrets or recriminations about the fact that he used that kind of language to begin with. These are our choices: appeasement or calling someone Rocket Man and threatening Fire and Fury. Really, those are the only choices available to the American president? I don't think so.
Senator Bernie Sanders tweeted today, quote, while very light on substance, Trump and Kim Jong-un's meeting is a positive step in de-escalating tensions and addressing the threat of North Korea's nuclear weapons. Democratic Senator Mark Warner tweeted, diplomacy is the most viable option for pursuing the dismantlement of North Korea's nuclear program. Bobby, is this an area where the president can get Democratic support, or in Bernie Sanders' case, independent support.
If he can demonstrate that he's making progress, then yes. It would take a little more, I suspect, than the outlines of the deals that he's coming back with. If there is actual movement on the ground, that is more than just a photo op. If we start seeing the North Koreans dismantle their nuclear weapons, then yes, he not only he should get the support of all sane people around the planet. Here's the thing, though. If we could go back for a moment to look at what happened the last time there was a president reached across this big divide, with Reagan and Gorbachev. We only began to trust Mikhail Gorbachev when he started to give his own people a break. We need to see that with North Korea. We need to see this man treat his own people better. That makes him trustworthy. As long as he's treating his people like he's running a gulag, he's not trustworthy.
All right, we have some breaking news.